Hello Starbearers, this is GeoStar7 here with another review, and today I'm going to be looking at AEW All In London 2024. Yes, for the second year in a row, All Elite Wrestling has brought their equivalent to WrestleMania to Wembley Stadium in London, England. So now I'm just going to be going through each of the matches, telling you a little bit about the build-up and the stories going into them, how they played out on the show, and ultimately what I thought about them overall, just like I did for All In 2023 last year. So let's not waste any time, let's just get into this. And by the way, I should say, I must apologise if it seems like my eyes aren't focusing too much on the camera. I've written quite a lot of bullet points here, and you know, just so I don't forget what I want to say. So I will apologise for that in advance. But anyway, so yes, like I said, All In London was held at Wembley Stadium this year, and I have to say it was quite interesting, like in the weeks building up to it, because AEW seems to have this habit of holding off on announcing the matches that are actually going to be on the show until about a few weeks before the event. Like, I don't know really what that does for ticket sales, but you know, when I was actually watching the show, it seemed like Wembley Stadium wasn't sold out. You could definitely see there were plenty of empty seats there. So what I will say is that every single match on All In London this year was a title match, and the only one that wasn't still had championship implications. And I have to say, for the first, they didn't waste any time. Like last year, they had a pre-show that lasted a couple of hours and had some matches on it. But yeah, this year they didn't seem to do anything like that. Like it was just the matches. They didn't show anything backstage or anything. They just showed the matches. Some of the a video package presenting what the match was going to be, and that was pretty much it. They wanted to keep this just to a 4-hour show. Maybe it was 4.5 hours with breaks or something. I don't know. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, anyway, the first match on the card was one that I was actually really looking forward to. It was the London Ladders match. It was for the AEW Trios Championships. It featured the Patriarchy, which is Christian Cage, Kill Switch, and Nick Wayne, and they were facing the Bang Bang Gang, which is Juice Robinson, and Austin and Colton Gunn, the House of Black, which is Aleister Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews, and finally there was the wild card team, which was Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac. They joined as a wild card, I think. So yeah, they were the last. They were a very last minute addition that was added to the match, and they, like I say, they didn't waste any time. They didn't even have any introductions to all the teams. They had the show started with them all in the ring, and it just really started off and got straight into the action. But the reason why I was so interested in seeing this match is because I have a sneaking suspicion that this match was somehow inspired by something that happened at WrestleMania 40. If you guys remember my review of that show, there was actually a 6-team ladder match for both sets of tag team championships. The reason I think possibly this London Ladders match was inspired by it is because when WWE did that match, it was the first time that 12 men competed in one ladder match, which was a significant milestone for them. So I think maybe AEW wanted to recreate that in some way, but instead of 6 teams of 2, they had 4 teams of 3, and they were just and like I say, they were just going at it. Now, although I have to say, compared to that WrestleMania match, I really don't know if this match really really lived up to its potential, because they didn't seem to be doing anything too creative with the ladders, like what some of the superstars do in WWE. In fact, the ladders themselves really seemed smaller and a bit thinner. I mean, most of them looked like they wouldn't really help the superstars to actually climb up and grab the titles that were hanging above the ring. The only exception to that, with the ladder that actually helped them win the match, believe it or not, that one was actually too large. Like, when they set it up in the ring, it was literally knocking the championships that were hung up there. Like, one easily could have dropped down, which would have caused a whole lot of issues. But yeah, anyway, like going into this, like the whole idea was that the previous trios champions had been stripped of the belts because one of their teammates had to leave the group, I think, due to injury, and they thought about bringing someone else in to replace them, but that wasn't permitted, and so the patriarchy, Christian, Killswitch and Nick Wayne, they won the trios championships, and they were trying so hard to like not have to defend them at All In London. Like, they were doing everything to make sure that they didn't have any number one contenders going after them, but that ultimately resulted in this like I say, this big ladder match, and then the next team was brought in as a wild card, and it just really added to the action. But like I say, Christian, like, you know, you could definitely tell, like, he's playing like the cowardly leader of the group. Like, not long after the match began, like, he literally just ran to the back and let Nick Wayne and Killswitch do most of the fighting, and then it was only later that he came back when everyone was laid out, and he tried to climb the ladder and grab the towels, but that ultimately backfired on him because he was pulled down, and literally every other competitor who wasn't one of his teammates literally cornered him outside the ring and started beating him down. It was also happening throughout the match that like Christian was trying to hog all the glory. Like, his teammate Killswitch actually could have won the match for them at one point, but Christian insisted, like, no, like, I'm the leader of this group, I should be the one to pull them down, and that cost them the win at that point. It's not just that, like, Nick Wayne's mother, who's sort of like the fourth member of the group, Christian actually claims that she's one of the trios champions, like her, Nick Wayne, and Christian himself, like Luchasaurus. I almost say Luchasaurus, that's what he was called before, but like Killswitch, like, he's always given the short end of the stick. Even like when he was TNT champion, Christian was always the one holding the belt, like, claiming that he was the champion. But yeah, like, Nick Wayne's mother, like, she was getting involved. At one point, she tried to climb the ladders to retrieve the championship until Austin and Colton Gunn, they told her, no way, don't even think about it. And then there was another point in the match where she actually brought a spray that she was trying to use on everyone, and then she tried to use it, I think, on Juice Robinson, but he blocked with a chair, and then he grabbed it from her and he sprayed her in the eyes, like in the eyes, to actually get back at her. And at one point, he even went to put her through a table, like, because there were quite a lot of tables in this match. Like, there were a few chairs as well. Like, it technically could have been considered a TLC match, tables, ladders, and chairs, but obviously WWE has the trademark of that match type, so they're obviously not gonna call it that. But yeah, there was some great moments. There was also what else was there? Oh yeah, there was like a brief moment where Austin and Colton Gunn said to Juice, like, "Juice, get the table!" like imitating the Dudley Boys at that point. And but yeah, like, it was also, this match was, I think, a really great moment for Pac, because he actually missed All In London last year because he was out with an injury. But here he was competing, like I said, with Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. He was able to really have his moment, and when it came to the ending, he was actually the one who pulled down the championship and actually got the win for for his team. So he, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta are now the new trios champions, which I think everyone was good to see. Just Pac get his moment because Pac is native to the UK, and there were quite a lot of people from the UK, superstars from the UK, who were competing on the show, and so that you have to give them their moments, obviously. And in fact, it was even in the next match we had someone. So the next match was the AEW Women's World Championship, and this was Timeless Toni Storm taking on Mariah May. And it's been quite the journey because Toni Storm's Timeless gimmick, it actually sort of started not long after All In London last year, because she was distraught at not winning the AEW Women's Championship, and she started to go a little bit crazy in her mind, and then it just got to the point where she started believing that she was, in a way, Marilyn Monroe, like she was like this posh movie star. It was a complete change from like the tomboy character that she had going for her before. Like, it was a great change, and everyone really grew to love it. But yeah, like the story going into this was like Mariah May, who's a native to I think London, England. She came into AEW, and she said how much she admired Toni Storm, and she was sort of taken on as like a protege or an understudy, as they would call it. And yeah, Mariah even had quite a bit of success herself. She actually won the Owen Hart Foundation tournament for the women, but it was at that point that she turned on Toni Storm. Like, she assaulted her. She used her own high heel to actually bloody her up, which everyone was just, it was seen as a dastardly act. And then obviously she came out during the match, and despite being from London, England, like, she was absolutely despised. Like, she was booed because because of what she'd done. But anyway, going into this match, I'm not so sure it was the wrestling itself that was the highlight as in the match, but more so everything that was going on around it. There was a part where Mariah spat on Luther, who was Tony's manager / valet. She kissed one of the commentators, Nigel McGuinness, who's the heel commentator, and then she drop kicked Luther. And actually, Mariah May's mother was actually in the audience, and she was watching her daughter, who, for apparently only the second time seeing her wrestle. And what did Mariah do? She went over to her mother and she actually slapped her own mother. Like, what? She slapped her own mother. Like, why? What point is she trying to prove here? Anyway, Tony got a hold of her, and she actually spiked her on top of her head, on top of the ring steps, which instantly started making her bleed. And then she actually went over to Mariah May's mother, and she actually comforted her by holding her close to her bosom, like what she did with Mariah May when she was her understudy. But anyway, like, it all ended with Mariah just trying to use the championship title to attack Toni Storm, but Luther took it away. Then she tried to use the shoe that she still had, but Toni Storm caught her, and Toni was actually going to use it to assault her herself, but she decided she had a moral conscience. She thought better of it, and that unfortunately turned out to be her undoing, because Mariah then got the upper hand, and she won, I think, with one of Toni Storm's own finishing moves, and so Mariah May became the new AEW Women's Champion, and it really did feel disappointing. Like, I get, like, giving people from the UK their wins and everything, but, like, I feel like this was one victory that we could have done without, like, even if she was a local competitor. Like, I wouldn't have minded if she hadn't won here, but anyway, Toni Storm was still got a standing ovation for it and for her efforts and everything. So at least there was that. Okay, next up we had the FTW Championship Match, which featured Chris Jericho versus Hook. So yes, for the second year in a row, Hook was competing to win back the FTW Championship. And there was this whole story with Chris Jericho where there was a time when they were teaming together. Chris Jericho was trying to help guide him along the way, but then Hook later on said I appreciate all your help, but I can do this on my own. And then it started with this whole new gimmick for Chris Jericho where he started what he called the Learning Tree. Which was like a group and supposedly giving people advice and everything, but also like maybe it was terrible advice or maybe it was just giving them brutal things. And if you listen to the Learning Tree, good things happen, but you don't listen to them, you get bad things happen. And bad things really did happen to those who actually opposed the Learning Tree. Hook wasn't just taken out; he actually had a fireball thrown in his face, which actually damaged part of his, I think his left eye, which left him out of action for weeks. And even Samoa Joe, who was actually teaming with Hook and helping him. Chris Jericho actually during a match they got him on a forklift and they smashed him directly through a wall. I think Samoa Joe actually needed time off to do some other things, but that's just a little thing. But yeah, even before the match, there was a special little moment where Jericho was played to the ring by his rock band Fozzy, just like he did last year, and like I say, Hook came out as well. He still had the tape over his eye. They had the Hook symbol, which is like the bat light thing that they do for him, but it was almost barely visible in Wembley Stadium. You could see it, but it was a bit tricky. I imagine it would have been a bit tricky for people to see. Another interesting thing to note is that Hook's father and the creator of the FTW Championship was actually on commentary. So yeah, the Taz was actually out here. He actually replaced Nigel McGuinness for a reason that I'll mention a bit later on. But yeah, he tried to be professional and he did hold back for the most part, even though it was his son in this match. But anyway, so like I say, the match was taking place and Chris Jericho and his Learning Tree group, they actually really took advantage of the anything goes rule. Chris Jericho's teammates, Big Bill and Brian Keefe, they immediately came into the ring and they started triple teaming Hook. It was essentially a handicap match for the most part. But yeah, like I say, things did get really creative in the match. They were obviously paying tribute to other sports that we in the UK here really enjoy. There was a bag with cricket balls in it. There was a cricket bat that was used. And, I thought that was a little weird at first. We do love cricket here in England, but it still seemed a bit weird. But Hook, I gotta say, Hook did use those weapons in a very unique way. He even began tossing the balls and hitting them with the cricket bat at Chris Jericho, and he also started throwing the balls at him. And it was pretty creative. But I think the most vicious weapon they used was actually a barbed wire board, which a board that was wrapped in barbed wire, and it was actually Big Bill who ended up going through it, which looked quite vicious. But anyway, partway through the match, Hook actually took the tape off, and it was revealed that his eye was actually fully healed anyway. He was just playing everyone. But, for a narrative perspective, that didn't make sense to me. Why would you wait until partway into the match to reveal that. I mean, you're just putting yourself at a serious disadvantage by having that on for like half the match. Like why wouldn't you reveal it at the beginning so you wouldn't have that extra handicap with only having half sight. But anyway, it was getting to the closing minutes, and Taz was he had just had enough of what Chris Jericho was doing to his son, and how he was disrespecting the championship that he created and everything. Like he couldn't stand it anymore, so he actually got up from the commentators table, and I think Brian Keith was about to interfere with the championship belt, but Taz grabbed him and he put him in the Taz mission. Meanwhile, Hook was in the ring and he had Jericho in his Red Rum submission, and Jericho ultimately tapped out, and so Hook is now a 3-time FTW champion. So yeah, once again he managed to retain that championship. Okay, next up was the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. This was actually a rematch from last year's All In London with the Young Bucks and FTR, but this time it was the Bucks who were the champions, and also the Acclaimed was added into the mix. So it was a 3-team tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And I won't go into too much detail, but like there's this whole story where the Young Bucks are actually EVPs in the company, and how they've been abusing their power to get what they want and even to become the tag team champions and everything. But yeah, like I said, and when it was coming to who should actually face them for the tag team champions at All In, there was this big debate going on between who the number one contenders were, whether it was FTR, who I think wanted to jump the line and get into it, or the Acclaimed, who they felt they were the the number one contenders. But in the end, both teams ended up going to Wembley Stadium to compete, and when they came out, everyone had their own thing going on. Like when the Young Bucks came out, they were actually dressed as a couple of the Beatles, like in those those iconic parade outfits, those bright, colourful parade outfits that you see. I can't remember the name of the album, but yeah, they were dressed up in those colourful outfits, and then they actually had a special ring introduction as well, like where the ring announcer was listing off all these great accomplishments, like making them seem like the best team in the match. But FTR came out as well, and then there was also the Acclaimed, like you had the traditional rap from the Acclaimed, and even before they came out, they started actually playing into chants that fans obviously they oh da 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 da. So they actually, before they came out, they actually started encouraging the crowd to go, "Oh, scissor me daddy, oh, scissor me daddy," because there's the whole scissoring gimmick with them, and obviously Billy Gunn is there, and he's considered daddy ass, like scissor me daddy ass, and then. But anyway, this match was really just a highlight for just how technical some of the people in the tag team division really are, and there was this weird moment where one of the Young Bucks wanted to do the EVP trigger, but their partner was nowhere to be found, so they actually got I think a member of the Acclaim to do it on a member of FTR. I can't remember exactly who it was, but that was a weird moment. There was a moment where Billy Gunn got involved with the Famouser, but yeah, ultimately the Young Bucks did retain their tag team championships. But immediately afterwards, there were two guys. I think their names were James Drake and Zach Gibson. They're natives of Liverpool, and they made it clear like they were coming for the Young Bucks and their tag team championships, and they even further made their statement by, I think, laying waste to both FTR and the Acclaimed, just to show, like, we're coming for you, and we're going to show you just how tough we are. But anyway, before the next match, it was actually revealed. It turns out there's actually going to be another AEW show coming. Another big AEW show coming to London next year. It's actually going to be Forbidden Door, like that. It's that event usually where wrestlers from both AEW and I think New Japan Pro Wrestling come together to start, do a crossover show and everything. That is coming to the UK in London next year. So yeah, it seems like AEW's really like trying to do an annual big show in the UK every year. Like I think they know, they know how much, how much we love wrestling over here, and they want to take full advantage of that. Okay, so up next was the only match on the card that was not a title match, but it did have championship implications. Basically, it was the Casino Gauntlet match where there's 21 competitors, but they all come in at regularly scheduled intervals, and the first person to come out and get a pin, they would earn a contract for a future AEW Championship at any time. So all 21 competitors don't have to come out, and I don't think they did here actually. But it's basically the first person who's gets in the ring and gets a pin, they get that contract. Interestingly enough, the first entrant in the match was actually Orange Cassidy, and he actually did a tribute to the older Mr. Bean intro, where there seems to be a spaceship that's beaming down Mr. Bean onto Earth and everything. He did a little tribute to that. And the next person to come out was actually Okada, and at first it seemed like they were going to be on good terms because Orange Cassidy and Okada, they had been friends before, and they even hugged in the ring. But now Okada, he is with the EVPs and the Young Bucks, and he quickly turned on him, proving we're not friends anymore now. Interestingly enough, though, the third entrant was actually Nigel McGuinness. Yes, the usual heel commentator for AEW. He actually came out as the third entrant. His colleagues, they were saying they thought that he had retired permanently, but he's from the United Kingdom too, and so he decided to come out of retirement just for this one moment to compete in this match. I don't know if it's going to be a permanent thing or if we're going to see him in the ring more often, but like I say, we'll just have to see. Anyway, he actually went toe to toe with Okada here. It was and everyone absolutely loved him. Despite being the heel commentator, they were cheering for him because obviously UK competitor, the UK, you're gonna have that. But anyway, I think this match was mainly just to help focus on the main stars of AEW who didn't necessarily have a championship match at the event, but they still wanted to feature them. Like you saw Hangman Adam Page, you saw Roderick Strong, you had Jeff Jarrett in there, and you even had Zack Sabre Jr. in there. He was another UK competitor who actually, not long before this, actually won the G1 tournament in Japan, so he was here for this. But perhaps most surprisingly was Ricochet was here. So yes, he has officially left WWE now, and he is signed with All Elite Wrestling, and yeah, he was here competing in his very first match for AEW. I will say the only real criticism I have about this match is because the ring fills up quite a bit with competitors. There were a lot of times where conveniently quite a few of the other superstars ended up getting tossed, or they just left the ring because they wanted to focus the attention on specific competitors that were fighting at the time. It wasn't like the Royal Rumble where everyone stays and they're all fighting at once, because I think if it had been that way, it would be very, very difficult for anyone to get a pinfall. But anyway, how this match ended was actually quite interesting. Christian Cage was actually one of the entrants. He actually came out for his second match that night. He was clearly limping from the ladder match, but yeah, he came out and compete, and then Lucha. Again, I keep saying everyone wants to call him Luchasaurus because that's how fondly they remember him. But Kill Switch, he came out as the next entrant, which Christian was quite shocked about, and it looked like potentially Kill Switch was finally going to get even with Christian Cage. It looked like he was going to attack him and actually get a championship that he deserved, but no, it turns out he was there to help him. He choke slammed somebody, and then he threw Christian on top, and Christian got the pin, and so Christian is going to be getting a future AEW World Championship match at some point. So yeah, even though he's now lost the Trios Championship, he's now moving on and looking to become the AEW World Champion now. Right, so up next we had the AEW American Championship Match. Or, I suppose more technically, it was the AEW International Championship Match. Let me just explain. So, the story going into this was that MJF had actually won the championship from Will Ospreay after nearly going an hour with him on AEW Dynamite. He literally pinned him with seconds to go. And then, not long after that, he rechristened the championship the American Championship, and that was just disrespecting the title's lineage and how it's a title that's not just highlighting the talent of the wrestlers in America, but also international talents. It's been held by some great international superstars, and yeah, it was just really disrespecting what the title stood for, and also throughout this, MJF has been portraying himself as I am a great American, and it's all a complete sham, and everything, but I am America's great, I'm the great, and he's really going overboard with it. Essentially it was so MJF could play this douchebag American, and he was taking on an honourable United Kingdom native like Will Ospreay. And anyway, speaking of Ospreay, the entrances here were very, very interesting as well. Ospreay had this whole Assassin's Creed entrance going on for him. He even had I think Japanese acrobats accompanying him as he was making his entrance. And as for MJF, he was going so overboard with it. He was wearing red, white, and blue. He had a big American red, white, and blue hat on. Essentially, he was kind of looking a bit like Uncle Sam, if I'm being honest. But anyway, so yeah, the match took place. But one thing that was really irking me was this was something that actually happened last year as well. They actually set off streamers. When MJF came out, he had red, white, and blue streamers. And obviously, because where they're hanging up there, it's a bit difficult to take them down. So throughout the rest of the night, they were just awkwardly hanging there and blowing in the breeze, which I imagine was a bit distracting for both the competitors and the audiences. You really wanted them not to be there and obscure what was going on. And that, like I said, that happened last year, where I think the Young Bucks had some streamers as well, and they were just left up there. But anyway, for the match itself, we knew that MJF and Will Ospreay, they would be able to deliver. I mean, that match that they had on Dynamite was proof that they could actually go for a whole hour and make that whole hour entertaining. But there were some highlights of the match as well, like MJF hit the older kangaroo kick, which he invented with Adam Cole, like he did it in like a really mocking way. But one thing that I really admired about this match is how it showed us like how Ospreay is just so agile and so acrobatic with his style of wrestling. Like especially when going against his opponent, like he can flip over them, he can do a full flip off of them, he can land on his feet when someone's trying to slam him, and I think there was even one point where he actually managed to do a back kick to his opponent's face while he was standing behind him. Like like to actually do that with your leg, that's actually really incredible. But anyway, there were other moments as well, like the referee got knocked down at one point, and also at one point Ospreay accidentally hit a cameraman who ended up needing medical attention, and that actually really shook his confidence and made him feel extremely guilty because it actually reminded him, I think, of the Tiger Driver incident. So let me just explain that. Basically, going into this match, Will Ospreay has been like very reluctant to use his Tiger Driver move. It's sort of a slam where like the opponent lands like very close, like I think on their shoulders and near their head, and there was an incident not long ago where Will Ospreay actually used that move, and it actually caused serious injury to his opponent, and then they created this whole storyline where he just refused to do the Tiger Driver because he could not face the possibility of hurting someone like that again. But him not using that move has actually been costing him because he's been hesitating. It's actually cost him a lot of matches, and ultimately he actually had to get the confidence and grow the confidence to actually go ahead and use the move, and ultimately in the end he did use the Tiger Driver, and it actually won him the match. But after the match, he said like no way, I'm not accepting that American championship. Like that is just a disrespectful championship that MJF created. And so Christopher Daniels, who's one of the officials there, he actually came out and he had the original international championship, and so Will Ospreay has brought back the international championship, and he is now officially the AEW International Champion. There was actually some story going on with MJF as well, because there was at one point where he was actually going to win the match with, I think, Brass Knuckles, but someone in a mask came up and instantly stopped him, and that turned out to be Daniel Garcia, who MJF took out not so long ago. Like I think it was after a championship match. Daniel Garcia wasn't able to pick up the win over MJF, and that was when MJF suddenly turned heel again. Like he'd been playing a good guy character for a while, but yeah, he turned on Daniel Garcia, and he left him in a very critical state. They were saying like he wanted to end his career, but yeah, Daniel Garcia came back, and in a way he helped Will Ospreay win the match, and so it does seem like going forward MJF is going to be going after Daniel Garcia, and of course Will had to win here. He's from the UK. This is home turf for him once again. Like some of these matches were predictable considering who was competing in them, but it was still a good show nonetheless. Okay, up next we had the TBS Championship Match. This was between Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker. It's actually interesting because if you remember last year, Mercedes Moné was actually in the crowd at All In London 2023. Like there was speculation about whether or not she was going to be joining the company. Ultimately, she did, and ended up even becoming the champion. and yeah, so she was here and she was out to face Britt Baker, and I have to say, like, Mercedes decided to literally give herself the royal treatment as she was, making her entrance. Like, she came out in a golden carriage. There were corgis in the carriage. She had what looked like guys dressed up as royal palace guards, and she had a long flowing cape. Like, basically, she was making herself like as if she was the Queen of England or something. Um, but yeah, like. But yeah, there's not really much to say about the match. There was one moment where Britt Baker actually got Camille out of the match because she was trying to interfere. So she had she had one of Mercedes' championship titles because she had two of them, and Britt suddenly dropped down, and when the referee saw Camille with the championship, she assumed like she'd hit her, and so essentially she was pulling an Eddie Guerrero, which got Camille away from ringside, but ultimately that didn't help because I think ultimately Mercedes did retain the championship in the end, which was a shame, you know. Okay, so the penultimate match was the Coffin match for the TNT Championship. I've got to say, the setup for this match was really crazy. Like, after Adam Copeland, who obviously is formerly known as Edge, after he had to surrender the championship due to injury, the Young Bucks tried to use their EVP powers to actually award the title to Jack Perry. Christopher Daniels, though, was having none of it, and so like he had to earn it the honest way. But then Jack Perry ultimately won the championship anyway in a proper match, and then it was, Darby Allin was trying his best to try and earn himself a match against Jack Perry, but like I think he was being cut off at every opportunity. But then we got to Blood and Guts, the Blood and Guts match, which is basically like their version of WWE's War Games, and it got to the point where Jack Perry was actually handcuffed to the cage, and Darby Allin poured lighter fluid all over him, and he was threatening to the Young Bucks that he would actually set Jack Perry on fire if they did not surrender the match and give him a TNT Championship match at All In London. And ultimately, because they didn't want Jack Perry to be killed, they agreed to it. But yeah, anyway, so this was actually Darby Allin's second Coffin match at All In London. Like last year, he was in a tag team one with Sting, of course. And it was very interesting. Like when Darby Allin actually came out, like he did his whole entrance with his skating with his skateboard and going down the ramp that they had. When he came out, he actually had thumbtacks plastered all over his face, which essentially made his own face a weapon. Like if he slammed his head or anything like that into Jack Perry, like he would get a thumbtack in there. That is just so creative. But anyway, Jack Perry was here as well, and it's quite shocking to think like Jack Perry was actually back at All In London because if you remember last year there was all that drama with CM Punk backstage, which actually resulted in them being suspended / fired immediately after that. But yeah, anyway, Jack Perry was back, and when he came out, he actually had a body bag, and he was wearing a goat mask because his nickname is the Scapegoat, and he actually had a blackened version of the TNT Championship, which he actually introduced a couple of weeks earlier because he actually buried the original one inside a body bag with someone on I can't remember what show it was, but yeah, it was like he buried the original championship. But yeah, and things got really violent in the match. There was actually one point where Jack Perry actually had a bag of broken glass, he poured it all over the ring, and the crowd was just cheering for how violent it was going to be. And yeah, eventually Darby Allin was actually put in a really big disadvantage. Like Jack Perry actually taped his hands together, and he used duct tape for that, and then he strapped his legs together with a belt. So basically, Darby Allin couldn't use either his hands or his legs, and so Jack Perry was able to throw him off the entrance ramp through, I think, a table, and then he put him in a body bag and dragged him to the coffin. Darby tried to fight out, but ultimately he was just too restrained, and so Jack Perry put him in the coffin and ultimately won the match. And I felt a little bit. It felt a little bit underwhelming for me, quite honestly. It felt like especially with that build-up, with threatening to set someone on fire and all the violence that was going into it, and how much they were desperate to really get at each other. It just felt like Jack Perry just won the match too easily. It was essentially over when he had his hands strapped, he had his feet strapped, he was in a body bag. Literally, there was nothing he could do to win. To get away from that, and then they started to increase the drama as well, because after the match, the Young Bucks came out and they had some more lighter fluid, and they were implying that they were gonna set the coffin on fire to literally get even with even with Darby, like what he threatened to do, they were actually going to do. But then at that moment, the lights in the arena went out, and Sting returned. Yes, despite retiring, Sting actually made a return to Wembley Stadium. And it wasn't long. Even though it was 3 against 1, Sting had his trademark bat, and he was easily able to take care of the Young Bucks. Jack Perry ran away, and he just really helped Darby Allin, really, and it's. And yeah, I gotta say, it was really great to see Sting was there. We were lucky to get him at last year's All In London, and here he was again after his retirement, which was, really special. Okay, so the last match of the night was, of course, for the AEW World Championship. This was Bryan Danielson versus Swerve Strickland. Now, this has been advertised as being Daniel Bryan's last match as a full-time wrestler. He actually made a promise to his children that when they reached a certain age, he would stop being on the road so much and actually spend some time with them, spend time with his family. Bryan Danielson, he absolutely loves wrestling. He's always looking to improve and help the next generation. He's just so humble like that. But despite that, he wanted to make sure he can spend time with his family and not be away from them so much. So essentially this was perhaps his only chance his last chance to win the AEW World Championship. And there was actually an additional stipulation where if Daniel Bryan actually lost the match, not only would he stop being a full-time wrestler, he would never wrestle ever again. He wouldn't be able to even make a one-off return or occasional returns. That would be it. He would never be allowed to wrestle anywhere again. And Daniel Bryan was really the favourite to win this match. There were quite a lot of people who liked Swerve Strickland as well. Even though he's a heel character, he's been that way for most of his AEW career. The things he's done, especially around last year's All In, they were quite disturbing. And but he's just so charismatic, and he's got a catchy theme tune, and he actually made history by becoming AEW's first person of colour to actually win the AEW World Championship, and he was actually the first to person of colour to actually main event that All In show. So there was that as well. yeah, but like I say, before the match, Bryan just had this montage video, which was highlighting him throughout his career, minus his time in WWE, of course. Like WWE wouldn't give everyone else access to the library like that. But he did come out, and rather than his usual theme music, he came out to the song "It's the Final Countdown," which seemed really fitting given the given the match that was going on, and his family were in the audience as well. They were supporting him, and before Swerve Strickland came out, we actually found out that we had a guest commentator. It was good old JR Jim Ross joining the commentary team for the main event. And I just thought that was really great because not just for the match, but also for JR himself, because he is getting on in years, and he's not like a full-time commentary team member anymore because of various health issues. And who knows how many more times we'll be able to hear his iconic voice at the announce table. So I think it was just really great to have him here, for this main event at All In. And Swerve had this big entrance too, where he had a live performance of his theme song. But yeah, anyway, this was, like I say, it was basically it was career for title in this match. And, Swerve did use some underhanded tactics, like he slammed Danielson's head into the ring bell when the ref wasn't looking. And not only did it cause him to bleed quite early on, but also it looked like he was having problems with his neck. And I didn't mention, Danielson was already taped up around his shoulders and everything before he even came out to do the match. And then at one point, the ringside doctors actually had to come in because they were worried that Danielson had actually broken his arm or something. But Swerve chased them off to try and finish the match. But nevertheless, no matter how injured or bloody he was, Danielson just kept kicking out. And the fans were actually loving it. He at one point he was looking at his family, and he told them how much he loved them, and it seemed to make him impervious to pain, like Hulk Hogan style. And the fans were really getting into it as well. Every time Bryan Danielson did his yes chants, the fans started cheering yes, yes, yes. And any time Swerve did his catchphrase, "Whose house?" the fans would go, "Swerve's house," like they were really getting into it. And every time Danielson kicked out of what was sure to be a surefire pin, the audience just exploded with applause. You could tell just how much behind Danielson that they were. And there was a moment where Hangman Adam Page actually came out, because there's been this whole story, this whole year-long story, where he really wants to get at Swerve for what he's done, for what he did to his family, and all those other things. It looked like he really wanted to attack him, but then security came out and actually stopped him from doing anything. So you just know that they're going to be carrying on that storyline at some point. But yeah, anyway, he was escorted away, but finally Danielson got Swerve to tap out, which was apparently the first time Swerve had ever tapped out in his AEW career. And yeah, Danielson just he won the match, and he became the AEW World Champion, which considering the career he's had, and I think that was just a great way to cap off his career. And also Pac came out, Claudio came out, Wheeler Yuta came out, and they came out to celebrate with him, and Bryan's family came into the ring, and they were all just celebrating in the ring together, and it was just like a really special moment, and I think a really brilliant way to cap off the show and everything. So yeah, I've got to say, all in all, this was a really entertaining show. There were certainly some matches I was more invested in than others. Some that I thought I would really enjoy that maybe I didn't, and some that were actually really surprising and how engaging they were. And like I say, literally every match on the card was like a championship match or had championship implications. And yeah, like I say, this is essentially AEW's version of WrestleMania. Essentially, next year they're going to be taking the show to to Texas. I think so. They're going to be really be. It's going to be all in Texas, and they're really going to be like presenting it as their big show and everything. But like I say, yeah, this was a really incredible show, just as good as last year's, and yeah, I'm just really glad that I've been watching AEW and following all these storylines and seeing them pay off or progress. It was just, yeah, yeah, it's just a really great, really great time, really. Okay, so that just about does it for my review of AEW All In London 2024. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please check out my other video for All In London 2023. I put a lot of work into that one as well. If you like this, then leave a like, share and subscribe, comment below, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video that I do. So until then, stay tuned.